on Cheers when he was on Jeopardy. I don't know if you know this episode, but came down to Final Jeopardy, and what was the answer? They named 3 people. Yeah, and that's right. And he said, "Who are 3 people that have never been in my kitchen?" It's the right answer, but they didn't give it to him. But anyway, so anybody recognize these letters? I'll give you a hint. This is a T. So now you know a few more of them. Anybody else? No, that's right. It's a math talk, so I don't expect you to have the alphabet. I'll help you through this. There's an A, some G's, and a C down here. Anybody have any idea what you make out of these? Say it again? That's right. So this is a DNA sequence. Right? These are the symbols we use to talk about DNA. There's a couple of colleagues at Berkeley, Bernd Sturmfels and Lior Pachter, have been working in this area called phylogenetics, which tries to figure out what is the function of all these patterns in your DNA and how they work genetically or other ways. And so they found this in basically every species they've looked at so far. So humans, Republicans, mice, what else? A whole array of just about anything. And they discover this is in every single one of them. And they think that it is part of the DNA code for every vertebrate, right? So these are the living things that have a spine, right? Unlike the Democrats, for example. So that, well, you got to balance. I don't know who's here, so I have to get you both. But so they think that this is from the origins of vertebrates, that this has been unchanged, this sequence, since the beginning, and they call this the meaning of life conjecture with reference to its length in the book. So they're geeks too. But it's very interesting. It's just a coincidence, actually, in one sense. They have found longer sequences than this that have the same property. So, but this gives it a nice meaning here. So what I want to do tonight really is challenge deep thought. Deep thought came up with an answer, single answer, and we want to think about, is there just one answer? Right? Can there be multiple answers? What if the answers you get differ? They might contradict each other. So that's one of the things that we want to do tonight is sort of find my place here. Okay, so here's really what my talk is about. You'll be able to get autographs later. They're up here in the row. Opposites, maybe. Things that may have some things in common, but some significant differences, and we want to investigate how do they live together. I think about that all the time, but also to sort of celebrate the differences that they do have. Celebrate the differences that they do have as valid and meaningful, even though they might be opposite. It's sort of like. Well, you might remember a Seinfeld episode, You Look to the Cookie. Do you know that one? It sort of looked like this, but I think it's really the yin and the yang, and most of you know how it really symbolizes opposites, living next to each other, and even more than that, within each other. So here's what's typically the female part, and within its core is maleness. And also, within every male, there's a female looking to get out. So that it's not that there's anything wrong with that. But opposites living with each other. And we want to explore that in mathematics and logic and religion and some other places. So that's where we're coming from. Here's a hand. Great. You're thinking, okay, I came all this way to look at a hand. Well, no. You came all this way to look at 2 hands. Down in the corner is MCE. Some of you know this as MC Escher. And there's nothing wrong with either of these hands. They look fine. The problem comes when you put them together. And now you have something that just seems impossible. Right? It's like the chicken and the egg. Which hand drew the other one first? Right? So it's a bit of an impossibility, but individually they look fine. So you get kind of a contradiction or in a way here. You get the same thing in our language. This is mentioned in the introduction here, but you have a bunch of people over for dinner party, and you sure hope they hang around, because if everybody does a dish, you're done in no time. Many hands like work. But on the other hand, too many cooks spoil the broth. Everybody puts their favorite spice in, and nobody can eat it. All right? So these are things that seem opposite, but both seem true. Lots more. Better to be safe than sorry. Right? If somebody's going up to the edge of the Grand Canyon, well, maybe it is better to be safe than sorry and back away. On the other hand, if you're trying to break a world record for long jump, maybe that's where you want to be. Opposites. So absence makes the heart grow fonder. I tell my wife this every time I go on a business trip. Out of sight, out of mind. You weren't supposed to see that one. Sorry. The pen is mightier than the sword, and actions speak louder than words. The Mets are amazing. I have a Mets fan up front. Way to go. Way to go. I mean, this was true in '69, but earlier than that, the worst team in the history of the sport, basically. So anyway, Niels Bohr was quoted saying, "The opposite of a profound truth may well be another profound truth." There's actually a fantastic play called Copenhagen. I don't know if some of you might have seen that one, but it was here a couple years ago. And it's really about some of this, what's truth, what's memory. Niels Bohr and Werner Heisenberg met in 1941 when World War II was breaking out, and the only other person there was Bohr's wife. And this takes place when they're dead, wherever they are. They have discussions about what happened and why, and what did you mean, and what did you say, and this is what I heard. And they disagree, and they try and discover what is the truth, what happened. And the truth was very, very nebulous. Hard to figure out what somebody meant, what somebody says, and they interpret and know what they want to say, and then they say it, and somebody else hears it from a different perspective, and it doesn't come out the same, right? So let's start a little bit more easily. Do parallel lines exist? I mean, this is an obvious answer, right? Of course they do, right? Here's a picture. You got some, kind of graph paper here. You got 2 vertical lines that are horizontal and 3 horizontal. Somebody said something wrong there. That are parallel, and 3 horizontal lines that are all parallel. Right? So there they are. But you back away from this. I can zoom out and see that the vertical lines are starting to bend a little bit. I don't know why. But the horizontal lines seem fine. They still seem parallel. Let's zoom out a little bit more. And sure enough, it's looking like it's not what we thought. These vertical ones are looking like they're in trouble. They might meet. But the horizontals seem fine, and sure enough, you look at this, and what you're looking at is really kind of the world. You've got these latitudes and longitudes. So, and the longitudes, they all meet at the North Pole and the South Pole, so you take any 2 of them and they intersect. They're not parallel at all. You might wonder if those are lines. But still, you have the horizontal lines, the latitudes, and they don't meet.